We now switch to a totally new chapter, which is a huge chapter, probably the biggest chapter in our lecture here this semester. It's about change management. Who of you has ever heard this term change management? Okay, 5. Okay. This is something which you definitely will experience in your career. Either as a victim or as a leader. Okay? So maybe you will benefit from change management or you will do change management. That will be definitely relevant. What is a change? A change is not a change of an individual manager. It's not the daily change. When we talk about change, I talk about this in more detail. We mean significant strategic changes in a company. Yeah, really significant strategic changes of which many employees are impacted. Yeah. Okay? So we talk about the big things. Yeah? I will show you some examples, what is meant by a change and what are the major types of changes which we find in organizations. And what we deal with is, there is a quote saying, people like changes, but they don't want to be changed. Right? You don't want to be changed. You want to be as you are. And changes are always a pain. Not always, but can be a pain. You must adjust yourself. You must develop new behavioral patterns. Sometimes you must change your attitudes. Yeah? So at the end, people must change. If you want to run changes in organizations, the people need to change. And people don't want to be changed. So what we find with changes always, and we talk about this, is resistance. And resistance is dysfunctional. Okay? Companies don't want to have people who resist to change. But what we do is we try to understand what is the typical human reaction to change. So this is very much about psychology here. Third question, how can employees be led through changes by applying change management measures? So then we talk about what is change management all about? Change management is about leading people through changes. And we talk about things like communication, we talk about things like involving the people, we talk about training, all these kind of things. Okay, and finally, we ask the question, which conditions are required to effectively manage change? What is the required environment that makes change management really effective? Okay, so please give me a concrete example of a change. What comes to your mind?
Let's say financial crisis and how we have to adapt, what we have to change in our company.
So there is a financial crisis, and some banks have to change. What do they change? Strategies, right? Change strategies. What else? Question to all. Banks must change. So what do they change? Is there anything that comes to your mind? Strategy, whatever that is. Yeah, please.
Now they have a change in that they let a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but they let some people go and restructure internally.
Okay, restructuring. They restructured the organization. Yeah, put together some departments, split departments, changing the hierarchy, changing the organizational structure, laying off people, right? Okay, changing bonus systems, right? Changing a bonus system, that's significant, right? So, here is an overview about the typical changes which we find in organizations. Okay, I'd like you not only to understand these different types of changes, but also have some real examples in mind. Okay, so you already mentioned this restructuring. I mean, you will experience this in your career. We have organizational structure. There's the executive board, and there are divisions, blah, 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 and that. I want to change this. That is meant by restructuring. To give you a very concrete example, very simplified. On the left side, we have an organization. It's IT company. They produce PCs and printers. Right? Very simple. And here we have on the first level marketing, production, and sales. Of course, there are much more. Okay, it's just simplified. And underneath these different functions, we have the different product lines. Yeah? PC, printer. The same with production. PC, printer. Now, you can run an organization like this. Okay? So we have big divisions: marketing, taking care for everything; production, taking care for everything; sales. Yeah? And here in this case, the head of marketing directly reports to the executive board or is a member of the executive board. The head of PC is not. Okay? It's different with the organizational structure on the right-hand side. Here the organization works in that way that the company consists of two major divisions. There is the PC division and there is the printer division. And within these different functions we have marketing, production, sales. So on the left side we have one big production department, so to speak. On the right-hand side we have two independent production units. Okay? And now we could discuss what is better. But this is not the discussion here. The point is that we find a lot of companies that switch between the different models. Okay? Maybe there is a company where the executive board says, okay, in the past we had the function-oriented organization. In the future we will have a product-oriented organization. And if you change this, and if you switch from one model to another, you can imagine that the roles of some people will change. Yeah? For instance, here on the left-hand side we have one big production unit. And they do both PCs and printers. On the left side you split this department into two independent departments. One department takes care for PC and the other for printer. And they do all the things, marketing, production, sales, independently. Right? So that affects a lot of people. Okay? And this is meant by restructuring. Okay? Next point, reengineering. You might have not heard about this before. Companies have processes. What is a process? A process is a line of different actions, so to speak. I'll give you a very simplified example. When you have applied at this university, when you have applied here, you submitted a Zulassungsantrag, an application, right? So we get the application. Hopefully, you got a notification that we got your application. Did you? Okay, great. That's a good idea. You got a notification. The next step is we look at whether the application is complete. Okay. Then the next step is we have kind of pre-selection. We look at some criteria. Then with the pre-selected applications, they move to a team of professors really who look at all the applications, sign and evaluate, and then you get a notification, and then blah blah blah. So there are steps. Or you provide some services to a company, yeah. You provide a service to a company, as IB Consulting or student consulting company. You send an invoice to the company. What happens with the invoice? There is somebody there who gets the invoice. The next step is to check whether the invoice is correct with regards to some formalities. Okay. Then it's checked whether the invoice as such is okay. Then blah blah blah. So you have always steps. In production, in sales, in marketing, in purchase, you have always processes. Yeah? Different actions, different steps. Now, you can do things very differently. Yeah? You can change processes, of course. Yeah? You can reshape the sequence of different actions. You can add actions. You can remove actions. So whenever companies change the processes, different actions, then we talk about re-engineering. And they do this in order to increase quality or to increase efficiency. And again, if you change this, some people are affected by this. If a company implements SAP, this has a huge impact on how the people work, really. Okay, companies really have to adjust their processes to the software and not vice versa. Okay, so this is meant by re-engineering. Something you are familiar with because we read about these things in the public media are mergers and acquisitions. Give me an example. Sorry? Daimler Chrysler. Failed. Yeah. What else? Some examples for mergers, acquisitions. Sony Ericsson. Yeah. I mean, we constantly hear about these things. One company is buying another when we talk about an acquisition, or two companies merge. It's kind of a marriage. Yeah. And two companies become one company. Yeah. That happens constantly, right? And I mean, you will also experience this probably. One day, the CEO of your company will ask all the employees, can you come to the canteen this afternoon? I have to tell you something. Yeah, and all people are curious. What does he have to tell? And then your CEO will tell you, I must tell you that we were just acquired by another company. Now we will become Bosch. Yeah? Before we were Max Fleischer Electric, now we are Bosch. In the future we will belong to Bosch. You will be a Bosch employee in the future. I mean, that's powerful. And that affects the people. They will be scared. There will be an insecurity, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of these things. Strategy change. We just had the example of the banks. You change the business. You change your priorities. Yeah. We have a lot of companies in the automotive industry. We said, well, in the past our focus was on SUVs. Now we will focus on the future on e-vehicles. Yeah. We have companies in Germany like TUI. TUI, yeah. What was TUI in the past? Preußack. Preußack. Yeah. Steel manufacturer. Right? Totally different company. Managemnt, also steel manufacturer in the mobile industry. We always find these strategic changes. And when we talk about strategic changes, we talk about the ultimate purpose of a company. Why are we there? What will we do? Yeah? What are our markets? What are our products? And these things can significantly change. Right? And then last thing which I want to mention here are cultural change. What is culture? What is company culture? Any ideas? What can?
And just everything, the mindsets of how they're supposed to work.
Yeah.
And a cultural change example would, for example, be some American banks that had to undergo a cultural change, or had to say that they would undergo one. Because of their
Okay.
problems.
So very important term, your mindset. Yeah. Definitely in some banks there must be a change of the mindset, the way people think, the way how people understand their work and the purpose of the work. We talk about the values of the people, what is important to the people. I mentioned an example earlier with, in Germany, the Deutsche Bahn. The Deutsche Bahn. I mean, in earlier days, that was pure logistic. Even transporting people from A to B, that was logistic. People were treated like packages, right? And today, people must be treated like customers, like guests. That means that the employees of Deutsche Bahn must totally change the way they deal with the people. And that's about changing values, changing attitudes, yeah? Changing the mindset. Okay? I have an example here to focus on leadership culture. Example number 1. We want our people to behave like adults. That's why we treat them that way. Each employee is responsible for what he or she decides. We believe in our people's own initiative to contribute to our company's success. Everybody at his or her place. We do everything to avoid static structures, order or control. We simply don't need it. You get a feeling about this culture? Who would like to work in a culture like this? Yeah, me too. That's why I'm here. Yeah. Right example. People need structure and guidance. That's why our leaders will never stop telling our employees as clearly as possible what's expected from them. Control is better than trust. Organizations need rules, and rules always need somebody who takes care for them. Nobody wants to suffer from corporate chaos. Yeah. Do you feel like? Do you feel how that is? Yeah. Who would like to work in a company like this? As a leader, right? Yeah. Okay. Both leadership cultures exist. We find both. And maybe you have companies in your mind where you would say, well, I can imagine that in company A it's rather like the left side, in company B it's like the right side. I met some companies in the past which said, well, yesterday I visited a company. The CEO told me, we are on the right side. The people in the last decades, they were used to clear structure and they were used to clear guidance. They always did what their boss told them to do. That's why he's the boss and I'm only the employee. Very much top down. In the last decades, people were used to this kind of system. But we will not survive with that system in the future. I want a leadership culture which is much more like the one on the left-hand side. I want the people that they think, that they take over responsibility. I want to avoid rules. People should know what's good or bad because, hey, they are adults and I don't want to treat my company like a kindergarten. Okay? How can a company switch from one side to another? Or what does it mean if a company really wants to change its culture in that way. That's what we talk about. And this is just one example of a cultural change. You find a lot of other examples out there, but that's the point here. Okay? To summarize at this point, we find restructuring, changing the organizational structure, reengineering, changing the way people work, the sequence and nature of the different actions. You find mergers, acquisitions, change it with regards to the ultimate priorities of a company, and cultural changes. Okay? People's life is always impacted by decisions, right? Your life depends on decisions. And some decisions are decisions that you make, and some decisions are decisions that others make over you. When you are an employee in a company, you very often find yourself in a situation where executives decides and you are affected by the decision. You can say you are, to a certain extent, a victim. Yeah? Okay, you are affected by decisions made by others. Okay. Let's talk about this. We talk about changes which are decided not by yourself, but you are affected by these decisions. And whenever we talk about change management, or we talk about the question how people react to changes which they have not decided by themselves, this curve comes into play. You find this curve in almost any book about change management. It's emotional curve, emotional response curve, however we name it. This curve was not invented, so to speak, as part of change management. This curve exists since more than 50 years, nearly 50 years. It was invented by a Swiss researcher, Elisabeth Kübler-Ross. She was a physician, a doctor, and in very early years, she started dealing with one question, and the question is how people die. I mean, we know how people die. But that's complicated, maybe. I don't know. It's about the emotional response of people when they learn that they have to die because of cancer or what else. So, to an employee, a person is told that due to cancer, he or she will die in the next 4 months. That's the situation we talk about now. And Kübler-Ross, she dealt with these people. She did thousands of interviews with these people and tried to understand how people cope to a situation like this. And it's very exciting. And based on thousands of interviews, she wrote a book on death and dying. And she proposed a model like this. That, number one, this is something that you need to take home. People respond to the message that they will die not somehow. They react in a very systematic way. There is a pattern behind. Okay? And the pattern is like this. Let's assume that in that particular situation where a person learns that he or she will die, emotional response, emotional stability, emotional situation is somewhere in the middle. It's balanced, right? As we are balanced. That's fine. Now you learn that you will die. The first thing is a kind of shock. Immobilization. Shock. That's in that moment you are not able to think. You are overwhelmed by this information, and you are by far not able to cope with this information. That's massive. That's too much. And your brain protects you in that particular moment, and you are in a mode of unconsciousness, a kind of unconsciousness. You are very conscious, but your brain stops thinking because it's too much. It's protection in that moment. But then you get back, and you start denial. You say, no, that can't be true. You mix me up with another patient. I mean, it can't be me. I mean, cancer, that is something that happens to my neighbor, but not to me. Yeah. So you deny this information, but you learn that no, it's true. You ultimately must understand that it's true. And then what happens to most people is that they run into a phase of anger. Why me? That's not fair. I mean, I lived a healthy life. I treated other people well, and so on. So why me? Yeah, it's not okay. So anger. You're angry about why that happens. What we find then is that people start to bargain. They negotiate with whomever, with God, saying, "Hey, give me a second chance. I will change my life. I know I did some things wrong, but I will do everything, but give me another chance." But at the end, people learn that you can deny it, you can be angry, you can negotiate, you can whatever you do. I mean, it will not change the situation. You will die. Full stop. That's it. That's the truth. And when people learn that nothing helps, and that applies for human beings in general, when you learn that independent from what you do, it will not change your situation. Once you learn that you don't have an impact on your situation, you are a victim, you come into a mood which psychologists name as learned helplessness. You learn that you are helpless. And when people learn that they are helpless, the probability for a kind of depressive mood is very high. I mean, that's one reason of depression. We learned from psychological research that you can even make dogs depressive through some very simple methods. If you make them learn that whatever they do will not change the situation. Depression is very often a result of I learned that I am a victim. I can't change everything. Yeah. So then, coming from depression, people used to start developing new behavioral patterns. They start to behave in new ways. They start to look at their current situation from a new perspective. They make really change their mind. You very often hear the sentence, well, now for me every day is so intense like a year in my life before. So and I'm happy about every year which I can spend with my family, and it was never so intense, and I'm happy about this. Yeah, not maybe happy, but positive. So people find new ways, finding a new perspective, how to look on things, and then they move into a level of acceptance. So we know that not for every person this model applies in the same way. Yeah? The only thing I want you to take home, and this is widely accepted in the context of change management, is that people do not respond somehow to changes. They respond in a systematic way. That's point number one. Point number two, some responses are very dysfunctional. Angriness is dysfunctional. Yeah? Depression is dysfunctional. Yeah? The idea here is that when you tell the people in a company, not that they will die, you tell people, we will shut down your department. We are acquired by Bosch. We will stop producing the products which we have produced in the last 20 years. In the future, we will produce something totally different. You tell the people from one day to another, the way we worked in the past was the old way. In the future, we will work in a totally different way. Whenever you tell something like this to the people, response is seen as similar. Yeah? People say, come on. Oh, shock. Oh, we are acquired by Bosch. Oh, sorry. Then you deny or say, hey, that can't be. I mean, are you kidding? And then the people are angry. Yeah? Why this? And you find this behavior in companies. They are angry. Yeah? They talk about these changes in the breaks and whenever they can. They're angry. But then they find that they can't change anything. It's like it is. Yeah, and people start laying back. Yeah. Okay. It might not be depression in that sense, but saying, okay, come on. I do my job. I don't care about the rest. Yeah. And then people start thinking in new ways. Say, hey, Bosch, Bosch, it's a great company. That provides some security also. That provides opportunities. The people start thinking in new ways about this change. Okay, we will produce e-vehicles. I mean, that's great, maybe. Yeah. Okay, I'm really angry that we stopped producing SUVs because I always loved SUVs. That was my life. That was my competence. I have a lot of experiences. But okay, now we produce e-vehicles. Fine, maybe there are some change in it. So people start to think in new ways. But the point is that in the middle, the reactions are dysfunctional. And that can really lead to problems inside a company. Okay? So, one key concept here is something that we find in the middle of this model. It's about resistance. Resistance. We all know what it is. Resistance. Widerstand. People resist to change. We can say this. Okay? Now, there is a lot of literature out there about resistance. How can companies really overcome resistance? How can you deal with resistance? And on this very packed slide, I have summarized the major things which I want you to understand about resistance. Let's talk this through in the next few minutes. Point number one. Whom of you lives in a flat together with other students? Okay. So have you experienced a situation where you are in your room and your peer in the other room, the music in the room of the other student is too loud? You experience it yes, all the time. And you want to learn, yeah? You want to prepare yourself for the accounting exam, but the music in the other room is too loud. That drives you crazy. Why? Because you find yourself in a situation where you cannot control the music. You are a victim of the music. Yeah? You lost control about the situation. It would not be a problem at all if the music would be in your room and if you would know that you can switch it off at any moment. But the mere fact that you cannot switch it off drives you crazy. It's not the music. It's not the music, it's the fact that you can't control it. Okay? Whom of you were ever stuck in an elevator? Oh, panic. That's panic. It was no fun. I mean, that's a situation where you definitely feel from one second to another that you totally lost control over your situation. Okay? I mean, it's a very, very extreme example. The point is that you all know Maslow, yeah? The hierarchy of needs. Yeah, of course. Maslow is among the picture that you see the most in your study, beyond SWOT analysis and all this. In psychology, we very often talk about needs. human needs. And there are some psychologists like Kotters who say that there is one fundamental need of people, and a fundamental need of people is control. I'm in control of my situation. And once people feel that they lose control about their situation, that really leads to resistance and in extreme ways to panic. Yeah? So, resistance is a natural human reaction to change. Because why? Because people feel that they are not in the driver's seat. Okay? And then change can be seen very differently by very different people. I mean, you tell employees, yeah, guys, we stop producing this thing. In the future, we produce this thing. You will find resistance in the majority of the people, but it will differ from one individual to another because things are seen differently by different people. Example. Imagine you have a child, yeah? And in the night, child, let's say 8 years old. In the night, she calls you, say, Ma, Pa, there is a monster in my room. Yeah? A monster. What will you do? You can say, hey, come on. Monsters don't exist. Yeah? Hey, you are 8 years old, and you should know that there are no monsters. Okay? Okay. Got it? No monster. Got it? No monster. Stop. And then you leave the room. Did you solve the problem? No, not at all. You must accept that this child believes that there is a monster. And now you have to cope with it. Saying, oh, there's a monster in the room. Hey, that's great. Yeah? Was it always there? Where is it? Monsters are nice. Should we give him a name? Yeah? How should we name the monster? Not every child has a monster. Yeah? And it's, how big is it? Should we look for it? Oh, let's have a look in the cave. Maybe there is it. Yeah? It's great. Yeah? Let's talk to the monster a little bit. I would also love to have a monster in my room. Then I would not be so alone. Yeah? You would take it serious. That's the point here. I mean, employees in most companies are adults. Yeah? But the situation is the same. People worry about a change, and you have to take it serious. Yeah? And the way they look at the problem is the way they do it. Okay? So, and very different people look on the same situation from very different angle, and that's the truth in that particular moment, and that's fine. Yeah, in a company I should accept this. And it's not, as pointed out in the third point here on this slide, that those who resist are always the troublemakers. Yeah? It's not that people are troublemakers by nature just because they resist to changes. They simply act as human beings. Okay? A fourth point is very important when we talk about resistance. In all organizations, in all teams, in all companies, we have so-called opinion leaders, or as informal opinion leaders. What is the difference between a formal leader and a opinion leader? Do you have any idea? Yeah?
Well, the formal leader is the guy where it says he's the boss of the department or whatever, and the opinion leader is maybe a colleague of the people that they trust or that have been in the company for a longer time, or that just look up.
Absolutely. Perfect. The formal leader is the boss. Why is he the boss? He's the boss because he's the boss. He has power because he is the boss. That's the formal position. The formal position provides the power. beside these leaders, there are always people, as you said, who also have power. And what is power? I mean, what is power? Think about it. Power is the capability to influence others. Okay? If you have the capabilities, the capacity to influence others, you have power. And this not always relates to formal power. It's not that you can influence others because you are the boss, but because the others, they accept you. They count on your opinion. I mean, in every organization which we have this, we also have opinion leaders in this room. There are 1, 2, 3 students in this room. When they say, hey, this lecture is shit, then most others say, yes, probably she's right. While some others who tell some others in the room, when they say, this lecture is shit, the rest would say, oh, come on, yeah, that's your view. And the faculty, the same. Yeah, we have professors in the faculty. If they raise their voice in a long discussion saying, you know what, we can't forget about this, then the discussion is over. Yeah. While when I say something, hey guys, you know we can forget it. Yeah, it's fine, Armin, let's continue. Hey, I'm the same. I'm a professor as anybody else. But we influence each other on different levels. Why? Because people are differently accepted, and that's a very social phenomenon. The point is that whenever we talk about resistance, these informal opinion leaders, they really play a significant role. Okay, they can really change the mind of the people in both directions, in positive direction or in a negative direction. Next point, which I want you to take home. We differentiate between 2 types of resistance. Now, type number 1. People in a department resist, but they don't say it out loud. They would not write a mail to the department head. They just are angry and talk about things in the coffee break. Yeah? In kind of hidden ways. They might, when it comes to extreme, they might sabotage some things. Yeah, that's what we would name a hidden resistance. Hidden. Yeah, it's not visible. While overt resistance, open resistance, visible resistance is people raise their voice and say, okay, we have heard about this change, but dear executives, we as employees, we have talked about this and we would not agree that this is the right decision. That's overt. What is better? If you would be an executive, what would you expect? What is better? Yeah?
If they tell you.
Sorry?
If they
tell you. Then you can control it, then you can respond, you can manage the resistance. Okay? Last point is the most important one. And we're going to talk about this in much detail. We know that there is one ultimate way to really avoid resistance, or at least to reduce resistance, which is involvement. Okay? Now imagine, yeah, you live together with your spouse, okay? And one day your spouse tells you, you know, in the next semester break, we will have some holidays in Turkey. I've booked a week in this hotel. How would be your response? Thanks, yeah, super. No, you would say, okay, oh, wonderful, but I mean, you have to pay for it. It's not that you are invited. Right? It's you pay for it. You pay 50% of everything. You would say, That's nice, but why haven't we talked about it? To all men in the room, never do this. Yeah, if you do something like this and you will be there and things are not 100% fine, you are in deep trouble. Yeah. Not my own experience, just a recommendation. If you involve your spouse saying, let's make the decision together, then there will be no criticism. Even the food is worse, the beach is bad. If you made a joint decision, both parties will accept how the situation will be. If you involve the people, they much more accept the future situation. I talk about this, how you can manage this. How can companies manage involvement? How can companies do this very concretely? Okay. Let me add one last thing today. There is not only a reaction to decisions made by others. This is what we talked about in the last minutes. Yeah? How people react on changes decided by others, where I'm a victim. We also find typical reactions on decisions you made about yourself. I mean, that's a very nice idea which I would like to add. By the way, there is a book which I highly can recommend from Daryl Conner. The book is named Managing at the Speed of Change. To me, one of the most important books about change management, especially when it comes to the psychological aspects. A great book. If you will work as a consultant somewhere, you must read this book. Yeah? And he also pointed out this model, and I like this very much. Imagine, after your holidays in Turkey, you and your spouse, you decide to marry. Okay? Because holiday was fine. Now, you marry, and the first reaction to your own decision is always positive. We married. Tell my friend. Yeah, post it on Facebook. We marry. Like. Okay. The next question is when. Okay, in 8 months. Now 1 month, next month. And you start to prepare the marriage. Whom to invite? What to do with Uncle Kurt? Should we really invite him? No, yes, no, we must. Okay, location, clothes. Do you really want to invite this friend? No, he will kill the marriage. No, but I must. I was invited in his marriage as well. It will become complicated. Yeah? It will become complicated. And from a situation of uninformed optimism, naivety, you move into a level of informed pessimism. Am I right? And hopefully you do not exceed the level of tolerance, because otherwise you will quit the process. You will say, no, that was definitely a bad idea. Exit. Okay. You cope with the situation, you cope with the complexity, you make it. And then you move into a stage of hopeful realism, informed optimism, and then completion. It's always the same. It's also with projects. When you work in a project, when you are the project lead, you will have the project team together. You make a kickoff. And at the end of the kickoff, you have a get-together, yeah, which means drinking a lot. And you are really optimistic. Great project. And then you continue and complexity increases and everything. You start writing your thesis. You decide upon the topic. Yes, I got a great topic about my thesis. And you're really happy. Hey, you are naive at this moment. You are totally uninformed. And the more you learn, the more you enter this complexity, the more it scares you, the more you feel that, oh, that was a bad idea. And hopefully you do not extend the level of tolerance. But if you continue, you probably will make it to cope with the complexity. So it's not always that you have some dysfunctional reaction to decisions made by others, but also to decisions made by yourself. Okay, just to add this. Okay, so the question really is, how can companies overcome the dysfunctional human reactions? Okay, how can I ensure that the level of resistance is as low as possible? And that's about change management. How can we manage change in a way that people are committed to the change, that they are capable to run the change, and all these kind of things. And these are the aspects which we're going to talk about today. Very concrete. So last time was about psychology. Today is rather about actions. Okay? And there is one article which I really want you to read. I mentioned it on this slide here. It's from John Kotter. John Kotter is one of the leading professors about change management. And he did a lot of research about change. And I mean, he's the guru of change management. You can also look at YouTube. You will find some videos, interviews, things with John Kotter. And he published an article in the mid-90s, Leading Change, Why Transformation Efforts Fail. So he did a lot of research about change projects, change programs, and he tried to understand what companies which succeed do really well and what companies that fail in their change approaches, why they fail. Okay, and he came up with 8 points. So these 8 points are things where John Kotter would say, if you don't do these 8 things, you probably fail. Okay, so these are the reasons why companies fail, but at the same time, these points are also kind of recommendations. You must do these things in order to succeed in your change projects. And I don't want to talk about all of these things. Just want to pick out some points. And probably the most important point is the first one. Establishing a sense of urgency. In German, Leidensdruck. I mean, again, let's think about something private. If you think that you should lose weight, if you think that you should stop smoking, if you think you should drink less alcohol, or something like this, you will not change your behavior unless you reach a level of urgency, a level where you say, I must change. If I don't change, I'm in deep trouble. You must come to this point. Maybe there must be a critical incident or so. Yeah. But unless you don't reach this level, you will not change. And this is the same with organizations. If managers, if the employees don't feel that this change is really necessary, otherwise we fail, then the change will not succeed. Okay? Me, myself, when I'm in a meeting, even with a faculty meeting, when we talk about something, yeah, a colleague has an idea, saying, well, colleagues, we should do this, we should do that. And we talk about it. I always try to feel this level of urgency in the room. You can really feel it. Do the people lay back, say, yeah, so we can do it, but we don't need to do it. You feel it. But if we don't feel that we have to do something, and the people are woke up saying, yes, there's a problem. If we don't solve this problem, we end up really with major issues. If this understanding is not there, the discussion is useless, really. So the sense of urgency is a key trigger for major changes. And John Kotter, in his book, Leading Changes, he talks about complacency. Yeah? And there are a lot of reasons why complacency is there. Right? And it's not that people just simply are lazy by nature. There are some some factors behind. Let's talk about some points here. Too many visible resources. Have you ever been in the area of the executive board of a large-scale corporation? You have the most expensive pictures on the wall. Everything is nice, it's beautiful, it's silent, it's wonderful. If you are in this sphere, you feel, wow, everything is great. And if you work in this environment every day, expensive carpets, expensive furniture, pictures, everything is fine. You feel that, wow, the world is fine. Yeah, I mean, that's a very simple point. Low overall performance standards. I mean, just to give you a very simple example, let's say over the time, revenue grew like this. You would say, yeah, perfect. Yeah, the world is fine. We are in a good shape. But if the competitor is doing like this, then it's a different story. The question is on which metrics, on which indicator you focus, right? I kill the messenger of bad news, low confrontation culture. Have you ever heard this quote saying, never talk to a manager without having a solution in your bag? I mean, you should never, little recommendation, never talk to your manager or to a manager above telling, hey, Mr. Manager, Mrs. Manager, there is a problem. If you end up like this, just telling, there's a problem, you will be the messenger of bad news, and every time the manager thinks about you, it comes to his or her mind, oh, this was this guy who brought up a problem. Maybe he's part of the problem. I don't know. You always bring up solutions. Here is a problem, and here is a solution. Two options, A and B. What should we do? I recommend A. Do you agree, Mr. Manager? Yeah. Escalating problems is not always a good idea. And there is this rule that rather the positive information goes up and the negative information is rather held back. Okay? There is a kind of human nature to deny problems. Problems are problems. So you rather say, we are fine. Come on. It's okay. Yeah? The absence of major and visible crises. That's the same with the talent shortage. There are a lot of companies out there that must change, that should change their recruiting strategies in the way as we have talked about in our first session, lecture, employer branding, talent relationship management, active sourcing, unless there is no crisis, unless there is no Fukushima, tsunami, things don't change. Things, environment, markets, very often change slowly. And you adapt to the current situation, and maybe you don't realize that things really change and things become dramatic. Okay? So sometimes we need a tsunami, but the tsunami is very often not there. Okay? So there are a lot of reasons why complacency is there, why sometimes there is not this sense of urgency of changing things. So if there is a decision by the executive board saying, we will restructure, we will change our strategy, we need a different culture, we will merge with... If this sense of urgency is not there, because of all these reasons which I just have spoken about, maybe the change will fail. Okay? Creating a guiding coalition, I will talk about this. You need strong people who lead the organization through the change. You need to have an entire change organization. I will show you how that looks like. If the weakest people in the company lead through the change, that's always clear. If you don't have the strongest people on a project like this, you will fail. But then a very major point is having a vision. A vision. I mean, you have heard this term vision already, right? Vision, mission. What is the difference between a vision and an objective? What would you say? I mean, these different terms, you feel different things around these terms. You have different associations with vision versus objective. What would you say?
Let's say objective is the way we reach our vision, what we want to achieve in our future.
Okay.
In a simple words.
So objectives are more how we achieve our vision. A vision is much more long-term, right? More, yeah. Well, objectives are more operational, right? Okay.
Mission means like why you exist,
Yeah.
and vision means like where you want to see yourself after.
Okay. The mission is the reason why we exist. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. In every household, there will be a computer running a Microsoft system on it. That was a vision by Microsoft. We built the greatest products in the world. We will build computers that can be used by children, even by children, right away. Apple. Yeah. We're gonna be the market leader in electronic vehicles. A human being will fly to the moon, set the foot on it, and comes back alive. Whenever we talk about a vision, then you feel that it's very tangible. You can see it, yeah? and you can express a vision in one simple sentence. And when the people hear the sentence, they say, "Wow, yes, we will become world champion." It's not, "We want to get as far as possible in this competition." No, we're gonna be the world champion. We're gonna win the Champions League. It's clear. People should love it. Okay, that's a vision, and vision must be as simple as possible. In my career, I worked with SAP, as you know, and once we had a vision saying we're gonna be the leader in integrated business platform, blah 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 blah. Such a vision. We learned from surveys that not every employee in that company really understood that vision. Yeah. There was a vision of a competitor, Oracle, and the vision was 2 words: kill SAP. I mean, as an SAP employee, I did hate this vision, but I did love it because it was so simple and clear. Yeah, kill SAP. That's it. Yeah, we can't stand having another competitor in the market. We're gonna be the winner. We're gonna be the leader. You know, that's a vision. And you must communicate this vision to the people. Yeah? Sharing the vision all the time. I mean, look at the great leaders in the world. Think about Nelson Mandela. Think about Mahatma Gandhi. They all had a vision. And every time, really every time when they had the chance, they talked about their vision. And there was not one single second where anybody could doubt that this person believes in this vision. So that's important. You know, that's important. If such a vision is not there, then the company will fail. I wonder whether Daimler Chrysler really had a vision. There was this idea of a world company. We're going to be huge. But that was a vision that the people really loved. Yeah? I don't know. Okay? We're going to talk about short-term wins. Sometimes we name it also quick wins, and some other stuff. So my recommendation, read this article. This is really, I would not say a historical article, but it's one of the very few really important articles around change management. So let's talk about change management. How does that really look like? And this picture here is really, that's a key picture. And I really hope that in your future career, maybe you will have a look at this picture again. Yeah, it would be great. Because that's really a framework which you can use to work. I also teach in the executive MBA, and there I have managers, and we talk about cases, real cases in change management, and we always use this framework and talk these different building blocks through. Yeah? If you're fine with all the building blocks, you could say you might do a good change management. Okay, so what do you see there? In the middle, you find a very typical process with the typical steps. Okay, at the beginning, there is a phase. Let's name it initialization. Whether it's about a merger, whether it's about strategic change, there's always this phase where some leading executives, some leading managers start thinking about that idea. Should we buy this company? Somebody has this idea. Somebody brings in this idea, maybe in a conversation in the executive board. The CIO has the idea of, should we implement a new business software? I think yes, let's talk about it. So there's always this idea was born and people start thinking about the idea. That's all about this phase. So every change has its birth sometime, right? So the end of the initialization phase is what? What is the result of this phase?
Accept an idea or
Accept an idea, a decision. A decision. A decision saying, okay, we thought about it, let's do it. Okay. The next phase is about the scope, objectives, and the vision, as I said. What is that? That's about, okay, what is this change all about? Will we acquire the entire company or only parts of it? Will we implement the software in our entire corporation or only in Europe? So this is about the size, of the change. Who will be affected by the change, who not? What do we want to achieve with it? Yeah? Is it about revenue growth? Is it about increasing quality? Is it about reducing costs? Is it about increasing customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction? So you should have some objectives. Yeah? There must be something you want to achieve with the change, and this is reflected by the objectives. And then the vision, as I said. Okay? And then the next phase is very important. It's about two things. It's about setup. I mean, you all learn a lot about project management. What do you do in project management? What do you do in project management right at the beginning? You run a project. What are the first things?
We make a clear structure of our project.
You build a structure, organization. Who is the project lead? Who is the team? Who works with the team? Number one. What else?
Would you like a schedule or something?
A plan. A plan. Yeah. And what else do you need to set up the project?
set up the milestones.
The milestones. I would see the milestones as part of the plan. Right? A budget. Very simple. Right? A budget, a structure, and a plan. Okay, let's put it that way. And some principles. That's important. It's important. To explain this, I show you this picture. Whenever companies go through a change, there are some ideas behind how you should do this change. And this how we do the change can look very, very different. And here are a collection of very different ideas. We could say, okay, we're going to merge with another company. Let's avoid too much noise. Yeah? you should not talk too much about it. Just do it, okay? Especially in the market, we should not talk too much about it. So let's avoid too much noise. We want to avoid costs. We want to be fast with the change. Yeah. When I think of Commerzbank. Commerzbank was merged with the Dresdner Bank. That was a very clear principle saying we want to be fast. Speed. It's all about speed. You want to be as fast as possible. Some companies say, well, now when we change the processes, when we change the structure, let's do it right. There will never be another chance to do the things right. So when we change everything, we try to do it in a way that will be valid for the next 10, 20 years. So we want to do things right now. Yeah. We want to avoid any irritation. We don't want to make the people feel uncertain, worried, or so. Yeah. We take along all people. We want to involve the people. We don't leave them alone. We try to get their opinions. We try to catch their ideas and all these things. But some companies say, a change is so complicated. When we implement this software now, this business software, let's focus on the most important things. Yeah? We focus on what really matters. It's the 80-20 rule. Okay? With 20%, we can solve 80% of the problems. So let's focus on these 20% solutions to solve the 80%. And then in the future, we can talk about the rest. We don't do things by halves. It's like we do things right. Yeah, we endure pain. Yeah, it will be painful, and that's how it is. Okay. Okay. When you look at all these kind of ideas, can you imagine that a company really follows all these ideas all in once? You shake your head. Hey, no?
No.
Do you see some conflicts?
Yes.
Yeah, what? For instance?
For example, we take along all the people and we prevent losses. And
Right. Absolutely. We take along all people, but we want to prevent losses. That's not possible. You cannot. Is there anything else? I mean, as an exercise, take this picture and make lines on things where you think, okay, they go together well, and where you find conflicts. Yeah? You have an idea?
Yeah, doing things right and not doing them by half is like pretty much a contradiction
Okay.
to the 80-20.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
quality and speed.
Quality and speed. You can't be fast and focus on quality at one time. But both make sense, or?
Yeah.
I mean, quality. If you propose to a management board, we do things right, they will agree. If you tell them we want to be fast, they will agree. Nobody will say no, we want to be slow. Yeah? But in fact, there is a conflict. There is a dilemma. And you always will find these dilemma in every changes. So, to get back to our model here, it's absolutely key to define principles right at the beginning. Really, one of my examples which I really like was the Commerzbank. They said, it's all about speed. We will not do everything right. It's very complicated, everything. So, we focus on speed, even knowing that quality will go down. Okay? Because you can't achieve both speed and quality. So you must decide. And it's very, very important. I mean, it's really a key message now with change management. I saw a lot of projects fail because they didn't have this principle right at the beginning. You must be clear right at the beginning about the principles of the change. Is it speed? Is it quality? Is it involving all the people or not making too much noise? Yeah? All these different things. You must decide. Then, after having set up the project structure, you have a plan and the budget, and you've defined the principles, you start to design. Okay? Now think about a restructuring. You change the organizational structure. What do? You have a chart and you design the new structure. Okay. How do we move? Where do we move this department to where? Who will report to whom in the future? Or think about the implementation of an IT, of a software. If you think about the implementation of SAP in a large-scale company, that's a huge project. You define all the processes in detail. You have an army of consultants doing nothing else than preparing PowerPoints. You don't do nothing, you just plan, you just design the future, right? And then the actual change happens. The actual change, okay? And this is in 1 second. Say, from 1st of April this year on, the new structure will be valid. Okay. From 1st of May this year, we go live with our new software. So until then, we will work with the old software. From then on, we have the new software. From 1st of June on, these two companies will be one. Okay. So there is one time where the change happens. Right? Of course, it's not in 1 second. That's the phase of implementation. Yeah, it's implementing the software, starting the software, all these kinds of things. But then here, the actual change happens after you have done multiple steps in advance. But you will experience, or many of you have experienced in your career, once a change had happened, not all things are fine. Sometimes you have chaos, uncertainty, not everything works well. So you need a phase of stabilization. Okay? So these are the major steps in every major change program. Think about, again, private example. You have pain with your back. Okay? That's your problem. You have pain with your back. Okay? Or with your heart or something. In the initialization phase, you start thinking, okay, maybe I should do something. Then you set the objective, okay, surgery. When, where, who. Yeah? And maybe the hospital will then set up everything, will set up the team, set up the time, the schedule and everything. And they talk the surgery through. That's the design phase. What will we do in the surgery? They still have done nothing. They simply plan what they do, while the change is the actual surgery. Okay? Then everything happened after. It was planned, decided, planned, prepared, set up, designed. Then they will do it, the surgery. It's not that the doctors see the patient at the first time when they are in the surgery. They have planned everything. But then after surgery, you need some days, weeks, months, years to stabilize. Okay? So with the surgery, things are not done. You need stabilization. Okay? So we will get back to this model multiple times when we talk about different action fields and the relevant environment. So what I want to bring across in this session is we will do some things. We will start with a change analysis. That's a fundamental part of change management. Then we talk about communication. Communication is key in every change program. Communication is there to achieve what? Change, but more concrete. Why is communication there? What is the objective of communication?
Understand. To achieve commitment.
Commitment, understanding. Commitment, understanding. The people must agree that this is the right way. That's commitment, right? To more or less. Understanding. What will happen to me? What will happen to my team? Okay? You always will qualify people as part of a change. Yeah? To achieve what? To make the people competent to use the new software, to produce the new products, yeah, to run the new processes as part of reengineering. So it's always about these two things: making people committed and making people capable. Commitment, capability. Commitment is about communication. Capability, capacity is about training and support. And there is a special field which is part of both. Involvement. Involvement is always about achieving commitment and capabilities. Okay? Now we talk about sponsorship a little bit, management sponsorship, how you can organize such a change. We will not talk about these two, how to plan and to control things. I'll just say a couple of sentences about this, and how HR comes into play here. Okay? So, let's start with the change analysis. Let's have a very simple example, okay? Let's talk a very simple example through. Okay? We have an organization, let's say 5,000 employees. Let's say it's a company in the automotive supplier industry. Right? It's not too big, mid-size. Right? Already big, but still kind of mid-size. It's not a Bosch or Siemens. You have an executive board. And then you have some functions like production, sales, and all these nice things you will find in most companies. Yeah. Controlling, marketing, HR. Then you have teams with team leaders reporting to the functional heads. And the team consists of people. So, that's the organization. To put it very simple. Now let's have a very concrete example. Okay, let's have a very concrete example. Let's have an example out of HR. Okay, well, we are HR lecture, so let's have an HR example. What was the past in this company? The past was that as part of recruiting, all the managers, team leads, functional heads, the executives, they all did the candidate selection their own way. Okay? People were invited, they invited people, they did the interview somehow. Yeah, everybody did the interviews in different ways, personal styles, yeah, and then they made a decision by themselves. Okay, that was recruiting in the old days. Now we have a change, a minor change in that case. We changed the process in a way that in the future all managers have to stick to a clearly predefined recruiting process run by HR. HR, or the company, wants to professionalize the entire recruiting activities. So everything starts with HR. And when it comes to interviews, all managers have to consider certain criteria which are defined by HR. Yeah. maybe together with a line, but there are some concrete criteria, questions which you must ask. And there is a kind of scheme which should help the managers to interpret the answers in the right way. Then they have to use an app on the iPad, making their evaluation about the candidate. Okay? So it's really that the entire recruiting process will be changed. Yeah? In terms of responsibilities, in terms of the tools they must use, in terms of the software which they use. So that's the change. Okay? That's a minor change, but still a challenge. Okay? So, now the question is to you. Have you understood this case? It's clear. You are the HR director, and that's one of the 20 projects which you have in 2030. Everything is clear. You have the app. You have an understanding about what to do. What do you do? What do you do in terms of change management? Any initial ideas? I mean, we'll talk it through. But is there anything you would do now? We assume from our last lecture that most managers will resist. Say, come on, that's not necessary. Don't need it. It worked well in the past. No sense of urgency.
Communicate the benefits.
Communicate the benefits. So communication. You communicate something, the benefits. Yeah. What else?
Face-to-face meetings.
Face-to-face meetings in order to
More
achieve
and
what?
Understanding.
Understanding. Yeah. Communication. Understanding. Right. What else?
There should be some training to inform them about the new app.
Training. Yeah, yes, of course. You have to train the managers how to use the new criteria, how to use the new tools, how to use the app. If it's a good app, they can use it right away. Yeah. Of course, you have to do all these things. But what to do concretely and how extensive you need to do things, that depends on what we name change analysis. That's a very poor slide. Yeah, nothing on it. But it shows what the idea is. The very, very, very first thing, before I start any change activities, is that I have a look at different target groups. Yeah, what is a target group in that sense? What is a target group? Those who are affected by the change. Who? The managers. The managers, maybe the executives to a certain extent, the people in HR. So let's focus on these two. Yeah? In large-scale projects, you have 20, 100 different target groups. Here we have, let's say, 2. The managers and the people in HR. Yeah? Then, what I would do, and this is agreed by most change management literature, and it's also based on my practices, the first thing you do is you have a look, okay, what will change? Now, let's look at the change from a manager's perspective. Let's look through the manager's eyes and look, okay, what is the situation? What was the situation before? What will be the situation in the future? Let's write it down. Let's point it out. And then we indicate the changes. What will change? Okay, a new software, new tools, new behavior, new responsibilities, different people you will have to collaborate with. You will not do it by your own as in the past. In the future, you will need to collaborate. You will make decisions based on very concrete criteria. These are all the changes which you will find when you look at the situation before and the situation after. And then you will ask yourself, okay, what are the chances? What are the fears? There will be some managers saying, oh no, I don't want this. And some will say, yes, I like this. It's great. Okay? So you must understand what will be the implications from the change. And then you talk about the training needs. Okay? Let's just simply write it down. Okay, and what are the risks? What can be a risk? A risk can be that the people will not understand the app. They don't have an iPad. They totally resist. And the majority of the managers will not follow. Maybe it will not work, the new solution. There are a couple of risks. You just write it down. And if you have something like this, and this is very, very simplified, I would do it in a very small workshop in that case. We'll talk this through with the HR people. And then write it down. And from there, you get a better understanding of what to do. Okay? Another analysis which you do as part of the change analysis is a so-called stakeholder analysis. That's absolutely key. The stakeholder. What is a stakeholder? I mean, you hear this term many, many times.
The ones who are interested and will be affected.
There's somebody who's affected by something, who is interested in something. Right. Okay. Somebody who plays a kind of role. Yeah? Somebody who you need to consider. Yeah? So there is a very simple tool. It's the stakeholder analysis. Some name it the pain and power analysis. Some people in the company, in our company here, are impacted by the change very much. In our example, who are these? All managers? Probably those managers in those areas which grow the most. Those managers with the biggest hiring needs, with the biggest recruiting needs. Okay, these people are affected by the change the most. There are some managers which hire people once in a decade. Okay, so there are people who are affected by the change, and then there are some who are not affected by the change. Number one, there are people in the organization which have power, and there are people who have less power. Who are the people who have power?
Executives and functional heads.
They all have power. Who else? Could it be that she has power? Let's think about the last session.
Is it someone with very special skills or someone that we can really replace?
An opinion leader, right? Somebody with special skills, somebody who's highly accepted in the organization. Informal opinion leaders. Yeah? It can be that people on the bottom have a high impact on others. Yeah? These are sometimes more critical. Yeah? We talked about this last time. Opinion leaders. Right? So, there are people in the organization which are affected by the change, impact, pain, and there are people who have power in the organization. That's number 2. Number 3, indicated in this analysis, there are opponents and there are supporters. There are people saying, oh, a new recruiting strategy, a new selection strategy, that's great. That is so necessary. That's so important. I told already 5 years before that we need something like this. I mean, we need to be more professional in what we do. So thank you for coming up with that idea. I love it. And there are others saying, that's not us. We in our company, it was always that the people worked in a way they like to work. And it's fine. One manager does it that way, the other manager does it that way. That's fine. Yeah? People are responsible for what they do. There must not be structures given by HR. So I'm totally against it. That's too complicated. That means bureaucracy. I'm opponent. So, let's have a look at this before we make a very short break. Let's look at some people on this slide. Let's look at person C. What to do with this person? This person is not affected by the change. It's the head of facility management. I don't know. No power. But she is against it. What to do with this person? Ignore. But she's against it. I don't care. I don't care, sorry. Here, person A. Person A is really impact. This is a manager hiring a lot of people every year, and everybody knows this. And this person has power. It's the head of sales. And this person loves it. He says, we must do it. I love it. Thank you for coming up with this. What to do with this person? Yeah, you
have to heavily participate or include them and
You
leverage the effect that he has.
You include this person in the project. You make him a promoter, a multiplier in the entire organization. Look, people, here is Mr. Sales. He loves it. Here's an interview where he explains why he loves this strategy. What to do with person B? Person B is impacted, has much power, is against it. What to do with this person?
I would use A to convince B.
Very smart. Yeah?
Because B won't be convinced by somebody that has less power than him.
Yeah. Let's have lunch together. A and B. Yeah. Try that. A convince B. Make sure that A is stronger than B. Otherwise, it could go vice versa, right? Okay. You must handle this case somehow. You must do something with this person. We're going to talk about involvement here. Yeah. There was a quote which I like in that particular case from Lincoln, this former president of the United States, saying, "I'm rather want to have him inside the tent pissing out than outside the tent pissing in." He pissed, but better from inside to out than the other direction. Make him part of the program. Give him a role. Make him responsible for the success of the program. Okay? Go to lunch with him. Go do some things to, I don't know, things which are not written in the textbook. There are a lot of ideas how you can handle these kind of people. What to do with D? That's a in between, right? As you have many people who are somewhere in between. You can use this person as a kind of multiplier or so, but you would not do a lot. You would really focus on these people. Some people you can use as promoter, influencer, decider maybe, multiplier. Some you would declare as decider. Yeah, you are responsible about this. You decide. Yeah, or as patient. I have to take care about these people. Okay? So you will start with this analysis and build all the communication strategy, the involvement strategy, training strategies on these two kind of analysis. But that's the very first phase.